happen to love the number 5?
I have to speak up. I'm wearing it home.
Marvin, you're naked.
Stop looking at me, Swan!
You have until the count of 5.
Throughout the whole intro of that song, I just see Jesse in the corner just existing through life, trying to find the meaning of the universe. Welcome to the Got Till 5 podcast, everybody. My name is Max. His name is Depressed Jesse. Welcome to the show. What's up with you today?
I'm not depressed. I wasn't depressed. I was just so I've got for my work. Like people who are watching might notice that I regularly look over to my right, and you're not sure why. It's because I've got a big screen plugged into my laptop, which I use for work. But that means that I can see myself on this big screen over there, even though the camera is actually there. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm just looking at myself on a nice big screen, but I'm aware that from that camera, it looks like I'm just waiting for death to come.
Yes, and that's not the stage we're at yet, I hope. Not there yet. But generally, besides that, are you well?
I'm well. I just watched my football team lose, which is unfortunate. I've realised I totally get why football fans are dicks, right? Like especially the ones that go every week. Because I don't know if you know, but since lockdown and like no fans in stadiums, Sky Sports have been showing every football game. So like every football game that happens in the Premier League is on telly, which isn't normal. They don't do that when people can go to stadiums. So as a result, I've watched more West Brom games the last few months than I have ever. And I've become, when like your team lose, but you haven't watched the game, you just check the result and you go, oh man, we lost 1-0. That sucks. But like, I'm sure like we deserved it. Yeah. Now that I've watched the whole thing, I'm like, we missed that chance. We missed this chance. We missed that. We missed him. He didn't foul him when he should. Like, and you realize that all these bits, that there's more to the game than just the goals. And you realize, and it depresses you and it takes over your life. And I totally get why football fans are like miserable dickheads now.
He says as he chugs this massive can of Budweiser.
They're huge, aren't they? Londis are selling them.
Size of your head.
So £6 for 4 of these bad boys. They're lovely. I'm 2 down from the football. Got one here. And I've got one on standby, so I don't have to leave you, which is good.
Beautiful. Are those the ones we had when I came and visited you over August?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Possibly. That feels like a lifetime ago.
Oh, it was a lifetime ago. That's a nice T-shirt you're wearing.
Oh yeah, this crazy tie-dye T-shirt where I look fabulous is a Got Till 5. I'm wearing the merch this time. It says Got Till 5 on it. Can you see that, or is it too bright?
Nice.
Yeah, it says there. Got a nice little design of a skateboarding robot. My dad bought a couple of T-shirts, didn't he? And he sent me a picture. That was nice.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. John, for buying them. I'm also wearing. Oh, would you look at that? I'm just going to stretch for a little bit.
You're wearing a hoodie with your own hand on it.
Yeah. There's things that could be analysed about that, but we'll let it go. Let it go. It's also weird that people have been buying my hand, and just my hand is pressed on people's chests.
It's been your master plan the whole time.
Yep, just to touch some titties, yo. Today's episode. Today's fabulous. Today's episode is niche as fuck for a lot of people, but it's mine and Jesse's favorite subject matter. So enjoy. We're going to be talking about our favorite band in the world. Yes, Jesse, you had an interruption there?
No, I was just exclaiming and agreeing.
Oh, wonderful. So, as long-time listeners of the podcast will know, me and Jesse share a favorite band together, and that favorite band is the Descendents. Yay! Give people a quick history of Descendents, Jesse.
The Descendents invented pop punk. They had their first album in 1982. They formed in 1979, so they're a pretty old school band. They were sort of the first boom of punk. They came around from that. They were one of the first punk bands on the scene to stay away from politics and write love songs, which obviously became commonplace a decade later with your Blink-182s, your Green Days, that sort of thing, which became a massive thing in the 90s. If the Descendents had done in the 90s what they did in the 80s, they'd probably be multi-platinum selling millionaires, but they were too ahead of their time to their detriment. And as a result, they don't get the cred they deserve, but they are legends in the punk rock scene.
But they influenced your Offsprings, your Green Days, your Blink-182s, the one that kickstarted that pop punk scene of the early 90s. So without them, wouldn't have had any of the good dookie which you were wearing before the show, which I made you change.
You did, you made me change into this. Don't change. Go wear your uniform, boy! But yes, Descendents, I mean, they're one of Dave Grohl's favourite bands. They're one of Tom DeLonge's favourite bands. They're one of Fat Mike's favourite bands. They're just one of those bands that influences everyone you love.
And they're one of mine and Jesse's favourite bands. And after this episode, they're going to be your favourite band, because what we're going to be doing is going through our top 5 favourite songs, which is an impossible task to do. And I don't know why we do this to ourselves. And like the Linkin Park episode, we're going to play you the songs, have a listen, we'll chat about them afterwards, all that good shit.
I suggested doing top 5 albums, but you shot me down.
I did shoot you down, only because I feel like to get into Descendents, you have to listen to Descendents. And like we could have picked one song from each album, but then we would just be doing exactly what we're doing now. So I feel like people need to hear Descendents, fall in love, and go about their day. Fair?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair enough, he says. So, how should we begin this? So, favorite story of you and me is us going to see Descendents, which was a near Herculean impossible task when we first saw them back in 2010.
So you bought me for Christmas, which remains one of the best presents I ever got. You somehow managed to make me not realize that Descendents were playing a UK show.
Yeah,
I don't know how you managed to keep that from me. I think you got my girlfriend at the time. Yeah. You got my girlfriend at the time to sneak onto my laptop and basically sort of block websites to make it look like these websites were offline. And I was like, dude, I think Descendents have died. And there was nothing to look. So I hadn't even thought to check. But because Descendents are American, for anyone who doesn't know, and sort of didn't play up until recently. The lead singer was a biochemist. That was his full-time job. So they would very rarely do shows, and you certainly didn't think they'd come to England like at that time of their career.
Yeah, they released Cold For You in 2004, and then the gig was 7 years later with no new albums, no new music. It was just we're doing a gig in England.
It was two. It was 2 gigs.
It
was 2 gigs, just one night after the other in London, and then they were fucking off, and I had no idea. You kept it for me. You bought me tickets. Absolutely amazing. Q 6 months later.
Jesse's face though, but I got Jesse bought me this nice little football jersey that we were wearing. And I said to him, like, I don't have anything physical to give you, mate. And the lonely child in him, his little face dropped like, why don't I have present? And then I showed you on the laptop, and your face was literally like this, like, whatever, fine. It's probably just gonna be some art or some shit or whatever. And then you looked at it, and your little eyes just went, and then I think you humped me.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny you should mention the only child stuff, because I was reminded the other week that when my old band were on tour, we stayed in a hotel, and I went into the room, and it didn't have a suite. And I started shouting, I want a suite! Where's my suite? And someone said, they were like, oh God, like nothing's changed since you were a kid. Like when you were a kid, you'd probably just go up to your mum and shout, I want a suite! I want a suite! And now you're still shouting it.
Damn right. Never change. Stay the same. No. But yes, Q 6 months forward, me and Jesse finally seeing our favourite band. We never thought it was going to happen in our lifetime because Descendents were done. Milo was this biochemist. It was never going to happen. We have the tickets. We both go to London. We're on the coach. We're heading there. And as we get there, they cancel the show. We get to Shepherd's Bush and they cancel the show. And they cancel the show.
As we turned up.
Yeah. Well, I got like a tweet or a text from someone as I was on the M25 going into London, where it got cancelled. Apparently, the show before, which also had Fat Mike and Eric Malvin and NoFX appear, Milo, who hadn't sung in probably 10 years at this point, blew out his vocal box, and he tried to see if he'd be able to perform the next night, and it got to like 2 hours before showtime, and he was like, I can't do it. So me and Jesse show up at Shepherd's Bush, and we're just like, what do we do? We met Teenage Bottle Rockets. That was pretty cool. hung out with them for a little bit. Oh God, he left me. He left me. I can continue the story without him. I'm a professional. So we get to Shepherd's Bush and everyone is pissed off, like no one's around, but we managed to like meet some band members from Teenage Bottle Rockets, the drummer, who unfortunately since now has passed away. So he joined us for a drink and a chat, which was lovely. And then we were just meeting up with Descendents fans, and we were going bar to bar, just having a good time until our train needed to go home. So then, oh, he's back.
Sorry, my internet's being very strange today.
It's okay. I was telling the people the story. So we wandered around Shepherd's Bush for a very long time until we had to go home, and we waited until the rescheduled date, which felt like a long time.
It was a year. It was like a year later, and I was working for a circus when it was rescheduled.
Yes.
And it was rescheduled to midweek. And by some fucking miracle, like, you can't take a day off when you work for a circus, right? Because like there's multiple shows every day. You're part of that show, and it just so happened that the show was on a Wednesday, which was the one day off we got a week. So I went up on the Wednesday, and we went to the show. We stayed at my uncle's house, who lived in Croydon at the time. The show was amazing. It was everything I wanted. It's still one of my favorite shows I've ever been to. We were right at the front. I touched Milo's arm, which was just incredible. Just everything.
Not only did Jesse touch his arm, so like Milo, me and Jesse are at the front. We're at the barrier watching Descendants, and we're so happy. Milo jumps down and he's like singing in our faces. Jesse grabs his arm, and all I see is Milo goes to, sing to the other members of the crowd, and I just see Jesse still holding on, just go.
He was I can still remember how he was so hot and sweaty, and and you know how Americans are like darker skinned than us, just generally, they're just tanned. Do you know what I mean? And I just remember how lovely and brown and tanned his arm was when I was holding it, and it was all wet, and it felt so lovely. It was really nice, and I think we had disposable cameras. Fucking up, like disposable cameras were quite normal back then, and this is only.
Yeah, it was
10 years ago. Disposable cameras. Yeah. And took some lovely pictures. And I don't think it's in here, actually. It might be in the bedroom. I stare at it when I'm making love. A picture of Milo in a frame, which one of us took. I think it might have been you. It's a really good picture. So I've stuck it in a frame. And I will never forget that night. And then the next morning, we had to get up horrendously early. And I had to get a train back to wherever the hell the circus was at the time. And Mr. David, we called him, David Hibbling, his name is, who is a legend in the circus industry. A ring announcer, and just fantastic legend of the circus industry, picked me up in the morning because I asked him to, because he's a lovely man. And God bless David Hibbling for getting me back to the circus, and no one was none the wiser where I'd been for that day.
We were such little hobos. You were working at the circus. I didn't have a home. I was couch surfing summer. I was just going between. Yeah, such little hobos. What a great summer that was.
It was, it was good. So, because I remember you went to Matt, didn't you? Because we went our separate ways on the train. Yeah, you got on a train to Brighton to go see Matt, and I got on my train to wherever the hell circus was.
Yeah, memories. But we'll have more Descendant stories because we've been to a fair few gigs, and there's a few more stories from that gig I want to talk about as well. Okay. But let's kick off.
I've noticed that every Descendants gig we go to, we're slightly further back as we get older. We're like, I can't be dealing with this moshing.
Front, and then second gig was Kensington Olympia,
I think so.
Somewhere like that. We were in the middle, and then we've only seen them 3 times now, haven't we?
Yes. Was it Shepherd's Bush or
Brixton? No, we had Brixton as well.
No, it might be 4 times we've seen.
Yeah, so there was Brixton.
Yeah,
no, it's definitely 4. Brixton. I can't remember now. But yeah, we do. And then the 4th one, the one we just recently went to, we were right at the back, and we were just like, well, it's fine. And then I remember us having the conversation when we went, next time, should we get seats? Should we just
the balcony?
Just have a seat and have a nice time. Well, we'd seen them. We didn't need to mosh anymore. We got nothing to prove. We're old.
Exactly. They need to play Brixton again. Brixton is the best venue for men of our age to go and see bands like that, because we went to that Less Than Jake Goldfinger gig, right? And we stood a fair way back. No one was bashing into us. It was like nice. We were having a lovely time. And because of the way, because of the way the venue's built, you get this amazing view of the stage pretty much wherever you are. It's perfect.
Yeah. The problem with Brixton, though, is because you're standing, if you're not moshing or dancing and you're just kind of standing as we were last time, your legs fucking kill because you're at that like angle.
Oh yeah,
like right.
It's like a gulag.
Yeah, ooh, your back hurts after a while. This is why we're not allowed to go to punk shows anymore. So let's kick off. Number 5. This is you kicking off. We're going to start with Coolidge.
Coolidge. This is, unless you count the 3-second track where they all shout "All." This is the opening track of the album called "All," and it's called Coolidge. Now, this isn't one of your favorite albums, Max. I love this Descendents album. There's 2 Descendents albums that are quite controversial. They're all considered fantastic, with the exception of All and Enjoy. Now, I'm with you on Enjoy, although as we were discussing earlier, there's 5 solid songs on Enjoy. Yep. And All, I actually love. I love the whole album, All. You don't so much. But this song is an amazing opener. It's got... it's the first Descendents are really good at being catchy, right? As well as like great lyrics and being a punk band and all that stuff. Like the pop element is definitely there. And Stephen Edgerton can write a guitar lick. And this is the first Descendents album of the Descendents lineup that still exists today, right? So this is Stephen Edgerton and Carl Alvarez's first album with the Descendents. And you can tell because like the quality of musicianship is just knocked up. The bass playing and the guitar playing suddenly becomes next level. And you're getting these incredible bass lines. And in this song in particular, the just really solid. I love riffs like that where like it doesn't end. Do you know what I mean? Like the last note is just starting the first note again. It's just relentless and carrying on. And then Milo starts singing. Opening track, remember? Album like 3 years after Enjoy, I think it was. And he starts singing, and the song, he says, "I'm not a cool guy anymore, as if I ever was before. I took a look at all the signs and rolled them over in my head." And the whole song is about not being cool, but owning that. So every other song I've heard that bands sing about being an outcast, being a nerd, is always from a place of being a victim. And it's like, oh, poor me, I'm other. And Milo doesn't do that in this song. It's just a powerful, like, I'm a fucking nerd. Nothing goes my way. Like, I'm not cool, but that is me, and I will own that. And the closing lines of this song, he says, "You can only be a victim if you admit defeat." I think that is a really cool line. And the whole song in general, just this nerd anthem, just say, be proud of who you are, own it, and good things will come your way. And I think it's just positive and powerful. I love it.
Damn right. Here's Coolidge for your listening pleasure.
That's so dope, right?
So dope. I love the bit in the middle where it's like the harmonizing and then just a sorry.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is always my favorite bit in there.
But all that is perfect. So, like, when you think about that in the context of that is the first song of the Descendents lineup that we now know and love, right? So, like, 4 albums in, they got Stefan Egerton on guitar, Carl Alvarez on bass. 2, like, their bass players and guitarists were good before, but Stefan Egerton and Carl Alvarez are next level amazing musicians. And it's like that song is just like, here's what we can fucking do when we've got like musicians and singers like that, because like you say, those harmonies in the middle and stuff, that's not something they could have done without an amazing backing vocalist like Carl Alvarez sort of with them. So it's like, boom, we can fucking, this is a noise we can make, and it's a new noise, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's such a strong start and such a heavy hit of a first song. They don't really play it often live, which is always kind of disappointing because it is so good.
Yeah, I've heard it live a fair few times.
Not where we've been, so it makes me sad.
I think they have. They played it at least twice in the 4 gigs we've gone to.
At least twice. But no, it is great. And I don't shit on all. I guess it's not one that I go back and listen to repeatedly, you know?
It's mixed, strange. It is quiet. I don't know if you noticed that. It's a quiet album. So unless you've got really good headphones or speakers, it can be difficult to listen to because for some reason the mixing is so down. But I mean, fucking Clean Sheets, man, is a tune that's on there. That's an incredible song. And again, that if I could just quickly talk about Clean Sheets, like the in the verse when they're playing guitar, and then that doodly doo. Do you know what I mean? Like just in the middle of the verse, and just that. It's such a simple little thing, but that's so fucking Stefan Egerton. Only he would think to do something simple like that. Just a little noodle on the guitar. It's almost folky, like in a punk song, like just doing this little noodle in the middle. It's lush. I love it.
The problem with this show, everyone, is that Descendants songs these are going to be no longer than 2 minutes. It's rare to find a Descendants song over 2 minutes. The problem you're going to find is me and Jesse speaking about them for 20 minutes. Why they're so good.
We're going to get really nerdy and excited about this a lot, and I apologize to anyone. I know. We get so into it. But I've been told, like, so turns out, I wish I knew this when I was a teenager, girls find people talking about something they're passionate about really attractive. Did you know that?
I did know this, yeah. I've learnt it too late in life. But
yeah, right? Because when girls talk about something they're into, I couldn't give a shit, mate. Like, I'm bored off my tits. I'm like, stop talking so I can have sex with you. But they like... But they love it. They love it when you talk about stuff you're passionate about. So, and I'm good at that.
I don't think it works though when we're just talking pro wrestling and and pop punk, 80s pop punk at them.
80s pop punk, wrestling. What else are we into that's weird?
Billy Madison, Shenmue.
Billy Madison.
Do you know why the Dreamcast was the best console ever made? And they're like, they get that phone call emergency. Not Nana. No. I'm so sorry. We had a great time. We gotta go. So many times in my life.
Yeah. It's like no, I can't relate actually, babe, because when Ine-san got ill in Shenmue, I actually felt really emotional as well.
Maybe else. Do you remember that girl at the first gig who we were at the front and she kept feeling me up? Now, she either felt me up for one of two reasons. Either she found my backside quite attractive, or she wanted to get some action close so she could get into the barricade, which is probably the most likely outcome of that scenario.
I'm going with option A, brother. You got a fine butt.
Thanks, man. This is the kind of support we need in life. But I remember her just like doing the whole touching and stuff, and it was just like, do you mind watching Descendants?
Did I ever tell you? So, just related to that, did I ever tell you when I got fingered on at a Sponge gig?
Yes, because you couldn't move, and then you came and told me. I was like, "Where have you been?" I couldn't move.
I got fingered on. Some girl. So I was at the front for a gig of a band we like called Sponge, and I could feel like a person sort of leaning on. I was topless because I was a teenager, and that's what you do at gigs when you're a teenager. You get sweaty and topless, and she was leaning on my back and like sort of kissing my back and stuff. It was all a bit weird, and I was like, "Oh, hello, cheeky." Turn around, and And she's there, and it's lovely. But then there's a bloke behind her, and you can just tell from like his angle, right? He's going at her from behind with his hand down her jeans, and she's having a lovely time. She's loving life, and but you can't do anything. You can't like if I'd moved, she would have. She was leaning on me so heavy that if I'd moved, she would have like knocked her teeth out on the railing in front. So I just had to stay there and get fingered on. It was technically one of my first sexual experiences. I think.
I just love.
I'm taking it.
The British politeness of just like, well, I can't move. I'm just gonna have to wait until she or he is done, and then
they're having such a lovely time. It'd be a shame to.
You were gone for a good 20 minutes. Like me and Jesse were like inseparable at these gigs. We hung out all the time. So when he was gone for 20 minutes, I noticed, and then I just couldn't get away.
I think I've just worked out, like, because we were inseparable at gigs, like, that is why we never got to finger a girl on someone else. It's because we were always hanging out with each other.
Exactly. Explains a lot about our teenage years.
Always, when people say always the bridesmaid, never the bride. It's like, always being fingered on and never fingering on someone.
And now we just stand quietly at the back and hope no one notices or bumps into us. That's the dream. Oh, okay. My number 4 pick is Suburban Home.
Woo!
Woo! Suburban Home, sorry, comes off the Milo Comes to College album, which was released in
Milo goes to college.
No, he comes to college. You're right, sir. So, Milo goes to college. And as Jesse was saying, with like the new members that formed All, an interesting thing I found out about this album and the songs is, so the original bassist, Tony Lombardo, he was like 20 years older than the rest of the Descendents. It was weird. Like those older guys.
And he's mental.
And he's mental. But the songs that he wrote, he was right. Like they're all these high school seniors or they're like really young lads. And then you got this guy who's just wanting to write songs about his desire for stability and to be individual.
He was a postman in his late 30s.
Yeah, exactly. He on this album he wrote "I'm Not a Punk," and it's just him being like, I just don't like the destructive aspects of the punk scene. It's just not very nice. I just want to play music and have fun. Like I'm not a punk. Yeah. And Suburban Home it's literal. If you listen to the lyrics, it starts off with, "I want to be stereotyped. I want to be classified," and it's his desire to have a house just like a mum and dad. He wanted a home. Because he couldn't kind of live in the place where people were cool, and he didn't like dysfunctionality. He had an abhorrence for dysfunctionality because his mum was an alcoholic, his parents were divorced, and he just didn't want this whole kind of punk rock hippie lifestyle of everyone living together and partying. He just wanted to have a suburban home, and that's the most unpunk thing ever, and I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a common misconception that this is a sarcastic song, because it really isn't.
It is genuine. Like, if you listen to the lyrics, he's like, he really wants a suburban home. And another great thing about this song is they always start their shows with it. And it is just the best kickoff, because they come out, everyone's all excited, and then there's just silence. And then it's normally Stefan who does I want to be stereotyped, I want to be classified. And then that hits in. And the place just blows up. Like every single time it just blows up.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
I think it's barely a minute 50 this song, but it's just so fucking good to get you hyped up. So this is Suburban Home.
I want to be stereotyped. I want to be classified.
I wanna be stereotyped. I wanna be classified. I wanna
be stereotyped. I want to be classified.
Gets my dick hard.
That drumming, man, so good.
All of it.
Yeah.
That song has no right to be as good as it is. Like, if you listen to the bass lines of that, the bass lines do not need to be as complicated as they are for that. It's ridiculous, the roles that are just put into it for no reason.
Do you remember the interview with Tony Lombardo? So if anyone's interested, there's a film called Filmage that was released a few years ago. Amazing documentary all about the Descendents, and you get a really good history on them. I actually showed it to my dad, and my dad, having no interest or knowing who the Descendents are, loved it. Like, as a piece of, as a documentary piece of a band of that level, it's just a really well-made thing. It's awesome.
Well, this is what happens. First of all, me and Jesse will play you like 1 or 2 songs, and then we'll see if you like it. Then we'll play you an album. If you're still not understanding, we will make you watch the documentary.
You're watching Director's Cut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
2 hours.
We're doing the extras.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an amazing documentary. But in it, Tony Lombardo talks about how he trained. I think it's a really good idea, actually. When he was playing like punk bass for the first time in his late 30s, he'd get fishing weights and put them on his right hand so that when he practiced playing like that, so that when he took them off, it suddenly felt like he was really light and he could play even faster, which is a really good, a good practice method, I think. Yeah,
Descendants are stupidly quick on their bass lines, and they do kind of finger play them. And I remember trying to learn myage on the bass, and just doesn't make sense in my head how the timing of it. It's just unbelievable of a bass line.
It's one of the few bass lines I know how to play, just because I picked it up at some point, but not at full speed. No way at full speed.
No, it's insane how they go that quick. But yeah, Suburban Home, because of exactly what we were saying, like everyone thinks it's ironic. It's like, oh no, it's punk to live in these kind of hippie drug dens. It's like, no. And especially for who Descendants are, like Milo, he was like, oh yeah, I've enjoyed doing the bands, but I want to get a degree in chemistry and I want to actually go and be a scientist. There's that really beautiful intellectual level of punk rock where you got like Greg Graffin and Milo, and you've got I remember the guy from Weezer just stopped and went and back into his masters and stuff. And there's just like that really nerdy element of punk rock where they just, I just want to go back and study, guys. I'm
pretty sure a member of Offspring did it as well. It might have been Dexter from Offspring. Yeah, he went back and did something like that as well, like became a doctor in something or other.
Yeah, and why not? And then Milo, so they didn't have an album, Cool to Be wait.
Cool to Be You.
I'm forgetting words. The 2004 album, Cool to Be You.
Cool to Be You,
was their last album for a very long time. And then 10 years later, Milo just decides that he's done being a scientist. And he's like...
He was made redundant.
And there's some great songs in there, like Business AU, where he's just like, what's the point of all of this? There's just no reason for me to be doing it. So I'm just going to go back and play music. And a normal kind of 50-year-old dad who's like, oh, I'm just going to go rejoin my old band and, have a little midlife crisis. No, Milo, he releases a full-length album, goes on a UK worldwide tour. Imagine dropping a band and then just picking it back up.
It's bonkers. Descendants have been one of the most influential punk bands since 1982, since their first album, and yet they didn't go full-time until 2014. That's mental.
It just boggles the mind. And for how, because we're talking about Descendants like they're not successful. They are successful. They're one of the most kind of successful punk rock bands from that era, because they still have clout and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. They're not starving, but they're not. But there's levels, right? Like they're not gonna sell out at a stadium like Blink-182 do, who are highly influenced by Descendants.
Or even from that era, like Ramones, you're never going to see a Descendants Milo logo in a H&M. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Which they should. It would make a killing. I'd buy all of them. So it would be amazing. But the great thing is, like, when you have Descendants merch, when you're wearing the Milo logo, which you would have seen in the images that we've been playing, and it's on the cover art as well, is when you meet a Descendants fan, just all pre-concepts of social just go out the window, and you're like, you are my friend. You are my friend. And I feel like that's something you and me put out often. If I see someone in a Shemu shirt or a certain kind of wrestling shirt, it has to be a certain kind. Gotta avoid some of them. Or a Descendants thing. I remember being at a service station and this guy, I was wearing my Descendants shirt and he runs up to me and he just starts pointing at his calf really excitedly. He goes, look. And I was like, yeah, Milo goes to college tattooed on the back of his calf. And I was just like, oh, dude, that's awesome. And then we had a lovely chat and I had a little moment. Yeah.
There you go. That was my first tattoo I ever got. That was the day after my 18th birthday. I got that, which is a Descendants tattoo. Yeah. And it's still my favorite. Still my favorite tattoo, I think.
I don't want to grow up. Jesse in a nutshell.
There you go. I've lived by that.
Number 3.
Oh, it's mine. I'm the One. This was the first single off of an album called Everything Sucks, which I think was released in 1996. I'm saying off the top of my head. So there was a big gap, right? So All was released in 1989, I want to say, 88 maybe. And then Milo goes back to work, goes back to do his biochemistry, and the rest of Descendants form a band called All, named after the album, who do okay. They're quite good, but they're not Descendants. They were obviously named in a pre-Google era, because try Googling the band All. It's a pain in the ass. And
don't even show up on Spotify. You have to type a song. You have to
right? Yeah. It took me ages to find them on Spotify, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm following that bitch, not losing you again." And then in '96, Milo comes back. He takes a summer vacation basically, and says, "Well, should we do an album and a tour, and then I'll go back to work?" And that's what they did suddenly in 1996. And again, in Filmage, they interview Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, and he says this was really exciting because he'd never got to see Descendants live, and all of his friends who were obsessed with Descendants had never got to see them live because they played live shows so unfrequently, and then all of a sudden in the mid-90s they come back and it's like, holy shit, we can go and see them. And they reaped the rewards for one summer of this sort of reputation they'd gained 10 years before. And this is the first time they came to England, because they did really well in this summer. And again, it shows how into science Milo was, because they, again, could have become a much bigger deal in the mid-90s with the release of the Everything Sucks album, because they got bookings at Reading and Leeds in England. They did these tours. They did Warped Tour. And then he just goes back to science. But anyway, this was the first single off of the album. So it's the first thing a lot of people heard. It might be the first song I ever heard of Descendants. So Everything Sucks was the first Descendants album I owned. I got into Descendants because of the Blink-182 Urethra Chronicles DVD. And when Tom DeLonge is interviewed on it, they ask him who his favourite bands are. And the first one he says is Descendants. So me, as a sort of 13-year-old kid, whatever I was like, right, if that's the first band Tom DeLonge says, but it's his favourite band, that's a band I want to find out about. So I went to Martian Records, if you remember that, which was a independent record store in my hometown, Cheltenham, where I sit right now. And bought Everything Sucks, which was the only Descendants album they had. So it was just chance. That was the only one that I could buy. And this is track 2 and was the first single from it. It's a song about being the one for a girl who's with someone else who's a dickhead. We've all felt like that when we were teenagers, maybe even beyond teenagers, being in love with someone who's with a twat. We did an Office episode recently. It's Jim, Pam and Roy, right? That's the story. It's happens all the time. It's just an awesome, powerful song, and the musicness that comes in at the start. Yes, I was doing so well. The powerful start to the song, and there's this element of the song to me as a nerd where it feels like Descendants are going, "We're back. This is how it's done." That's the vibe I get from this song.
100%. Here we go.
Just good friends, and you come to me for sympathy. shoulder you've been crying on. He's a total dick, that's the truth, and you know I'm right. Of everything you say, it isn't the way I'll ever do you right. You love a man who treats you wrong, but think you'll change him but so long. And usually then he'll stay so long. After all he's said and all he's done, I'm the one. I've been here for you all along. I'm the one whose shoulder you've been crying on. I'm the one who wants you more than anything. Don't feel the same way, you made it clear to me. But I'll stand my ground, maybe you'll hear what I've been saying. After all I've said and all I've done, I'm the one. I've been here for you all along. I'm the one. The shoulder you've been crying on. I'm the one. I've been here for you all along. I'm the one. The shoulder you've been crying on. I'm the one.
He is the one.
Beautiful. And do you want to know something exciting I only learned recently?
Bring it on.
So this album, great album, Everything Sucks, we all love it. It was obviously it came out after all had been formed. Out there, you can find them if you Google it and do some cheeky downloading and stuff. A bunch of demos of load of Everything Sucks songs exist, but with the singer of All singing them instead. So they sort of laid them down because Milo wasn't available. So they sort of laid down these demos ready for it. And it was Chad Price. And he was kind enough to sing on them. And he does backing vocals on that album as well. But yeah, he's singing lead on a lot of those songs for demos, which are quite fun to listen to if you're a nerd.
I did not notice, so I will be immediately doing this straight after this episode.
There you go. Yeah,
I feel like I'm the one is because we spoke about how Descendents have that kind of pop punk element. The two songs we played, Coolidge and Suburban Home, they still have that kind of punk, like you would listen to it, go, this is a punk rock song. I feel like I'm the one is that first one we've played where you go, yes, there's that pop punk element of just the lyrics and the, catchy riffs and choruses.
Yeah, and it's not a million miles an hour. I think that tends to be the difference, doesn't it? Like when songs are slowed down. Yeah. But I mean, like it's not. They're not just going ba 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 ba. It's just a nice sort of straight beat, like a pop song. It's just a distorted pop song.
Yeah. So my backstory of Descendants, because Jesse's told his, is I came slightly later than he did. In terms of
jumping on the Jazzmeister's bandwagon.
The Jazzmeister bandwagon, that's not what happened. So for me, I think it was the Mark Hoppus podcast when Mark Hoppus used to do his Morning Zoo podcast, which
that was awesome.
Really miss.
Hi, my name is Mark.
Yeah, this was before podcasts were even a thing. This was 2006. And it was the Morning Zoo that used to do, and he did barely 5 episodes, and he just had amazing guests, and they talk about music. And on the first episode, I think it was with Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy that they do this one. Or sorry, and there's another great one with the guitarist from Hello Goodbye.
No, it's the keyboard player. That's the one I was going to talk about. It's Jesse. His name's Jesse. The only reason I remember that is because I am also called Jesse.
I am paying attention.
And yeah, his name's Jesse. He played keyboard in Hello Goodbye. I've got no interest in the band Hello Goodbye. I actually listened to them off the back of this interview. Yeah. And I was like, oh, they're not for me. What a shame. But it is such a funny interview. And that guy was hilarious, right? Oh, yeah. Like, really funny dude. Jesse from Hello Goodbye. Really, really funny dude.
I just don't even know where we'd find them anymore. Like, they were so... Oh, this was my perfect time of my life where I was like, we just moved to Canada and we were looking for... a house. We were traveling through like Kelowna, and I'd been taken away from my friend. I didn't have Jesse anymore. I'd moved country.
Would drive anyone mental, not having me.
So I was sitting in the back of my parents' car. They were looking at houses, and we were driving all around Canada. And all I had was like my iPod, and I would just listen to the Adam Carolla show, the morning show, which I would have downloaded. I had two MXPX albums, and this Hi, My Name is Mark podcast. And just days upon days, I would just listen to these podcasts, MXPX and Adam Carolla show. It's one of my favorite summers I've ever had.
It's amazing. I remember, I did the exact same thing, just wandering around Tewkesbury. Like it wasn't
Lost
as
without
glamorous.
me.
Yeah, but I was doing the same thing. Such a niche thing. So Adam Carolla, if anyone doesn't know, is a lazy comparison would be to call him kind of the Jeremy Clarkson of America, in that he's sort of got this reputation for saying what he thinks. He doesn't give a fuck, but he does talk radio in America. He does podcasts now very successfully. Yeah. But back in the day, he did a morning, like a Chris Moyle style morning show, but it was on talk radio. So there was no music. It was just chatting, and it was fucking great. And yeah, me and Max would, you would be able to download it from the iTunes store. You'd download it onto your iPod. You plug your iPod in, and you'd get just was it? I think it was 3 hours, like 3 hours every 4 hours. It was 4 hours of every weekday of just gold, just really good chat. It was really, really good stuff.
They'd have like segments, great guests, and they're really hard to find now. And I wish I just kind of saved them all.
Yeah,
man, brought them back, but it is what it is. But I digress. The morning show, the morning zoo that Mark Hoppus did, that podcast, he was talking to, it was Pete Wentz daughter, Jesse from Hello Goodbye. And they were like, what was your favorite song? What was your first kind of influence to music? And he said, Descendents. Descendents was my first into pop punk, and that's what got me started. And one of the songs that he picked was Silly Girl. So Silly Girl came off their first album, I Don't Want to Grow Up, on Jesse's arm. And it was just, that was like, holy shit, this is really, really good. So immediately off the back of that, I went and found Descendents, and I found their most recent album, Cool to Be You, which was released in 2006? 4?
Mate, I want to say 4, it might be 6. You might be right.
Sometime around Benoit killed his family, somewhere in that area.
That was 7. I know exactly when that was. That was June the 23rd, 2007, all right?
Because I often watch the 2006 Royal Rumble, and it scares the shit out of me when his music hits and he comes out, because I'm expecting him dead at this point. Anyway, I digress into wrestling. So, Cool to Be You comes out, and it is just, this is probably the pop punk album that they do. It is fun. It's about, at this point they're married, so it's more about marriage life and this kind of stuff. And just a lot of it is very more adult but love kind of themes that are going through this album, and it's a lot slower and clearer recorded, and it just has that kind of feel to it. But it is such a good album. There is a couple of songs about shitting and farting, but
but that's part of the course. Like there's always them on Descendents albums. They'll chuck it in somewhere. And this album was also released on Fat Records, Fat Mike's record label, which is the only album that they released on that as a favor to Fat Mike, because Fat Mike was like, Descendents is my favorite band. If you ever make an album, can you please just release it on my label so I can say I put out a Descendents album? So they let him do it with this one, and then they went to Epitaph, I think, afterwards.
Yeah. Fat Mike's a massive Descendents nerd, and I love that about him. He just marks out whenever he sees Milo or anything about them. I think when we saw No Effects, he was wearing a Descendents t-shirt.
Yeah, I think so. He's got an I Don't Want to Grow Up tattoo as well, which I didn't know before I go. And so is Travis Barker. If you look on his leg, he's got an I Don't Want to Grow Up tattoo as well.
And here's Tramp Stamp Hope on his back.
Yes,
as well.
That's a song that we may talk about shortly.
Who knows? But I love how much Fat Mike loves Descendents. It makes me love him even more. They just had a new album come out. I haven't listened to
the whole album, but I heard Linoleum. And that is dope.
That's a great song. And it shouldn't work because they're just taking the piss out of themselves with their most successful song. But
but it does work. And it features Avenged Sevenfold, which I guess on guitar, which, much like with The River by Good Charlotte, Avenged Sevenfold are much better at improving pop punk songs than making their own music. So they should just stick to guesting on pop punk stuff and make it better. Just do that, Avenged Sevenfold. Don't worry about your own stuff.
How good is The River? How good is that whole Good Charlotte album that people slept on?
Oh, man, it's so good. Good Charlotte.
2008, Good Morning Revival. Great album.
You know what? I even love fucking the album that's so good I can't remember the name of. The one that's
good podcasting, buddy.
the one that came out after. So they had their big album, right? With Young and the Hopeless. That was a massive album. The one straight after that, Chronicles of Life and Death. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
That was a flop of an album. That didn't sell well. People didn't like it. This guy fucking loved it. All right, and they brought out Good Morning Revival after that, which is dope. Did all right, but was an improvement. Good Charlotte have some good shit, man. They're much more than a one album band that a lot of people think they are. There, I said it.
Don't sleep on them. Me and Jesse are seeing us live on air. We're saying it. But anyway, talking. So, talking from Cool to Be You, it's a lovely song. It's a beautiful kind of love, well, half lovely. And the sense of him being on the road and having difficulties maintaining a relationship when you have that kind of long-term distance. But when we get home and we can talk about it face to face and be with each other again, all the problems will kind of go away, hopefully. I just think that's a really beautiful message. Wouldn't you say, Jesse?
I would say yes.
Let's listen to the song. Listen to the lyrics and the beautiful...
And the drumming. The drumming is shit
the
hot.
Drumming. The drumming is shit hot.
Talking about our life, no matter how much I don't like. Talk is never cheap between you and me. Looking how far we've come, and so we always come undone. Maybe that's how it always has to be. I'm out here alone, talking on the phone. Tensions are rising, it's never surprising. This is the way it goes. Maybe we'll fall in love when I get home. Talking about our life, seems like we never get it right. But we always get an A for effort. We're quick to find what to say. Communication's the only way. If we ever hope to stay together, communicate. I'm out here alone, talking on the phone. Tensions are rising, it's never surprising. This is the way it goes. Maybe we'll fall in love when I get home. Tell me the problem, I wanna know. If there's a solution, I'll fix it now. And if there isn't, I'll just be there. If I don't say something, don't say I don't care. Well, I go yada da yada ya, and you go yada da yada ya, yada da yada ya. That's what we gotta do. I'm out here alone, talking on the phone. Tensions are rising, it's never surprising. This is the way it goes. Maybe we'll fall in love when I get home. Or maybe we'll fall in love when I get home. I said, baby, we'll fall in love when I get home.
Maybe we'll fall in love when I get home. Fucking love that. Love that song so much. One of my all-time favorite songs. And the thing with Bill and his drumming, it's like he's doing his own thing, but it works. Like, Milo's doing his thing, but Bill's just going mental.
I love it. That's one of the few Descendants songs I actually learned how to play on the drums. So I always stay away from bands that I really like learning stuff, because I feel like when you learn songs, it almost ruins the songs for you because they become this mathematical thing instead of art. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? If you're sort of learning, like, especially with drumming and stuff, because it's all like, you know, you're like, okay, I do this with this beat and that beat, and it becomes this paint by numbers sort of thing instead of art. But that song I made an exception for because it's just so fucking fun. It's just like you say, he's just doing what he feels like, and it's just energy. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
I just realised I'm surrounded by some Descendants memorabilia. So I've got a Milo bobblehead that I keep next to me on my thing. That's nice, isn't it? A proper little. Sorry for audio only listeners on Spotify and stuff.
You made your choice.
So I like him. And this is a 3-day-old coffee cup from the last time I worked from home, which is my Descendants.
Which you have had for the longest time I've known you.
Dude, my mum got me this for Christmas 2005, I think. Like, it's really old. It's a really old mug. But I
remember living together, and I just have to make you coffee again and again and again. And that
always in this. Yeah, I refuse to drink out of anything else, and I will be so sad when I inevitably drop it one day.
Yeah, exactly. Cool to Be You just makes me so excited as an album. So it was recorded in the Blasting Rooms, which is like Gorilla Man. Just fuck. Why am I forgetting names today? Bill.
Bill Stevenson is
Bill
the drummer.
Stevenson.
He's the one person whose name we haven't fully said. So the blasting room.
Bill.
This is smart, right? In the 90s, again, you learn this in filmage. In the 90s, they sort of talk about how all you had to do was pick up a guitar, and like after Kurt Cobain died, and it was like they're just looking for the new Kurt Cobain. So if you're relatively young and can play guitar, like if you're Green Day, if you're Blink, this is how all these guys got like big, right? They will just MTV and people like that will just throw money at you. So that's what all did. The band that they formed without Milo, they had one album that they released on a major label. All did. They got this like $1 million advance, and instead of spaffing it like so many other bands that level did, they invested it in the blasting rooms. They invested it in building their own recording studio, which was fucking great idea, and that is what they still live off now, really.
Yeah, it's still active to this day, and it's still kind of going strong, which is amazing. So obviously, as we said, like, go on.
Sorry, the biggest band, like Rise Against, have recorded all their albums there. They're probably the biggest band, aside from Descendents and all, who regularly use that studio. And like Rise Against, obviously, have some massive albums, and that's all. Yeah. That's all blasting rooms.
Yeah, and they kind of frequently record there, and it's it's Bill's kind of baby, and I really like that as well. And it took a long time for this album to get recorded, because we said about Milo and his need to go back to science, and he only had like a summer to record this again when he was kind of doing stuff. So he did like his vocal stuff over the instrumentals, and then they did all of that, but they didn't release them for 2 years. They worked on it in like 2002. Or 2001, but they didn't release till 2004.
I didn't know that.
And it was because of this, because Stevenson ended up saying that it was the gap of the whole 8 years between albums was because, the band members having children, and also because of Stevenson's dad dying as well. And I want to talk about, it's depressing as fuck, but the bit in filmage with Bill and his dad, what song is it that we thought was just this beautiful kind of thing, but it's about saying goodbye to his dad, and it's horrendous.
It's called One More Day, and it's on the Cool to Be You album. And there's another song as well called Steve's Boy, I think, which is on a Lemonheads album, because Bill Stevenson recorded and drummed for the Lemonheads on one of their more recent albums. I think it's called Steve's Boy, because Bill's real name is Steve. But that song also is about his dad. But yeah, just those two songs as a couplet are just brutal songs about how the pained relationship he had with his dad. And if you want more misery about that, there is a really good podcast called Krista Makes a Podcast, which is Krista Makes from Less Than Jake. He's the front man of Less Than Jake. He does a podcast where he interviews various ska punk, pop punk legends, and they pick one specific song that he interviews them about, one of their own songs that they talk about, and sort of talk about when it came out and the recording of it and what it means to them. Great idea, really good podcast, fully recommend it. He had Bill on for Father's Day, right? and so Bill was on as a Father's Day special talking about One More Day and this Lemonhead song. And beautiful. It's just 90-minute podcast of a grown big man who is my favorite drummer in the world, who I idolize more than anyone else in the world, just crying down the phone, talking about his dad and what a horrible time they had together. It's
beautiful. When you first listen to One More Day without the context, you do just think it's just this beautiful kind of love song of someone that he's lost as like a girlfriend or something. But then when you get told, you go, and you listen to lyrics, and it's so obvious, because there's lyrics like cold antiseptic stairs, the smell of the sick room air. Yeah, I let you go down there, the only child who never cared. And it's like, oh, how do we ever pick up that this was about romance or love? Like,
yeah, totally.
Any stretched imagination.
I used to relate to that song through relationships I'd had, not through my relationship with my dad. There's one line in that song that's so simple and so beautiful, because like it's all about how Bill Stevenson looked after his dad in his dad's dying days, but because of the personality type his dad just resented him for it. Like his dad didn't want to be looked after, and like, he had to be, Bill helped him go to the toilet and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Bathed him and stuff. And it had to be done because like this man was dying. But yeah, he just resented him for it and hated it. And there's this lovely line in the chorus where it says, "I pick you up, you put me down." And I just think that's just such a lovely line. Not lovely, but you know what I mean? Like such a well put together line. Yeah.
The thing with Descendents as well, there's so many, all of the band contribute. Like there's no set kind of thing of just like, oh, we're just going to sing about girls or pizza or X. You know, we've always debated between ourselves. Like there's a lot of religious lyrics in a lot of songs as well, that we're not sure who it comes from, whether it's Carl or whether it's from Stefan or where it comes from.
Seems to be Carl. When you look at, yeah. So Descendants, and I love them for this. Like, and again, it's sort of cool when bands do this. So a lot of bands, right, will just split the royalties evenly, which is fair enough. So Linkin Park did it. U2 do it. Red Hot Chili Peppers do it. So like every writing credit on every song is split evenly between the bands, as if you're supposed to believe that like they all sort of split. Do you know what I mean? Like one came in with the drum beat, one came in with the bass, and this amazing song was formed. That's not how it works. Someone would have brought that song to you, but for like political reasons or whatever, if you want to be paid evenly, you do it that way. It's a nice way to do it. My old band did it that way, which is great because I wrote very little. And but Descendants don't do that. They will, if you look at the notes of CDs, remember them kids? You can actually look in the paper and see like who did what, which is brilliant. So you can see who wrote what song. So, and Carl did write all the ones that mention God, interestingly.
Oh, he's done his own work. I like it.
There you go.
Number one, your number one pick then, kind of obvious for Descendants fans, but it's the reason why it's one of the best.
It's a massive song. Hope. It's from their first album, Milo Goes to College, as was Suburban Home that we heard earlier. So even though Everything Sucks is the first Descendants album I owned, this was the first Descendants song I heard. But it wasn't by Descendants. It was by Sublime.
Sublime. Yes.
Yeah. So Sublime, this is on Sublime's first album, 40 Ounce to Freedom. They cover this. And I had no idea it was. I loved that album when I was a kid. Like, I fucking love Sublime. So I've listened to it for a while, actually. It's because it's cold. When the weather gets good, they're a summer band, right? Like, when the weather gets good, I'll be rocking Sublime again.
Oh, yeah.
But 40 Ounce to Freedom is a fantastic album by Sublime. It's a mad album. It's like 21 tracks long or something. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But this is like track 18 or something. You're like approaching the end, and they do a really punky, hard version of this. I had no idea it was a cover. Thought it was a Sublime song. Loved it. And it wasn't until a couple of years later when I got into Descendants, I heard this song. I was like, how did they cover Sublime like 10 years before Sublime existed? That's weird. But turns out it was Descendants. It's just this song to me is what I love about Descendants. It's a love song. It's a bitter song. It's played. It's hard. It's catchy. It's just, it hits you in the face and then it's stuck in your head. There's not many songs that hit you in the face and then remain in your head afterwards. Like, it's just everything I like about Descendants is in this song, and it's got that lovely rawness. It's a bits of it are dated, I think. I don't think, like, there's lines. I know he changes a lot of lyrics live now. There's another song called I'm Not a Loser from this first album where it ends with what does he say? Your pants are too tight, you fucking homo. You suck, Mr. Buttfuck. You don't belong here. No way, you fucking gay. I'm not a loser. Yeah. I don't think they even play that song anymore. I think they tried to change the lyrics for a bit and then they just got rid of it. It's of its time. It's early 80s. There's one line in this song where he's talking about getting with a girl and he says, I'll have my way. You won't have a say anyway, which isn't great. But yeah, now he says, I won't have a say anyway. So that's okay. But it's of its time, but you take that bit away. We've all felt this way. This is another song, like I'm the One. It's a song about watching someone you're in love with be with someone who's a cock, and you think I could be so much better for you than that person, and that's what this song is. And when you're a teenager, this was written by an 18-year-old, remember? And I'm listening to this as a 14-year-old or 13 even. And it's just exactly how you feel when you're a teenager. It's lovely.
Exactly that. Here's Hope.
Why can't you say you talk to me? You're already thinking about someone
Tune.
I like that both yours are kind of like neckbeard anthems of just like, how dare she not be with me? Not kidding.
Yeah, and the other one was about being proud to be a fucking loser as well. But yeah, that's not like what I'm like, really. I don't think.
I promise. No, Hope is one of the most covered Descendants songs. We were talking about No Effects earlier and how Linoleum is their most covered song by everyone. That's what Hope is. Like if you find any pop punk band or punk rock band from 90s onwards, they will have a cover of Hope in their discography, without a doubt.
Yeah, totally. It's easy to play, it's fun to play, and writing easy to play, catchy songs is really fucking hard. Like, yeah, that's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah, and you're right. It does stick with you, and it just has that. It's something different about the guitar in it. Like it's similar to what you expect from a punk song, but it's different. And I've never been able to place my finger on what that is.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. Yeah, it's just one of those tunes that it's great. It's just so good.
Bloody beautiful. All right, my number one is Everything Sucks from the album Everything Sucks. But in the song, they put it with an X because they're hardcore, man. And this one is the, we were saying earlier that Suburban Home is ironic or whatever, but Everything Sucks is just literally Everything Sucks and I hate what's going on. And it's the opening track of the album. And like Hope hits you in the face, Everything Sucks, I think, beats you over the face and keeps beating you until the end of the song.
Oh, this song face fucks you, my friend.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't ask permission. It just goes for it.
Oh, wow. This song doesn't care if you're holding a cup of hot tea.
It will grab you by the haunches and hump it into submission. But it was interesting what you were saying earlier about how Everything Sucks. Like I never even put two and two together that they literally just took a summer off and had one of the most successful summers that you could ever possibly hope. I was looking at the tours that they did. So this was September 96 to August 97. They covered the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe. They toured with Swingin' Utters, Bouncing Souls, Suicide Machines, Shades Apart, Guttermouth, Less Than Jake, Handsome, Electric Frankenstein, Social Distortion, Pennywise, H2O. Like, and that's just the big ones that they toured with. I was watching, I was on Instagram following the beautiful Mike Herrero from MXPX, as I mentioned previously.
Yeah.
And someone was like, what's your most favorite memory of Warped Tour? And he said in 1997, we were playing Warped Tour on a small stage, and I was a big Descendents fan. Milo came and I was doing a cover of Hope, and Milo came out onto stage with us and did the song Hope with us. And he's like, that's the biggest dream. Again, MXPX is just like Descendants is one of my favorite bands, and Milo is the biggest influence. Every pop punk band that you loved in the 90s and early 2000s, Descendants is their favorite band.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, that crazy year that they had, like when this album came out, and then Milo's like, cool, gonna go back to the lab now, guys.
I remember there's always that video that I can't remember, I think it was a tour in Germany where there was the big mud fight and they were just slinging mud at Descendants, and I think Green Day played that show as well, and they had a massive mud fight.
Pink Pop, I think it was.
Pink Pop in like 96 or 97. And Descendants is there, and Milo's singing like I'm the One, and he's inviting people to throw mud at him, and he's having the best time of his life, and he's crowd surfing and he's just going fucking mental. Security hate him, and just the logic to then just be like, and there's that clip in The Simpsons where just crazy shit happens and then it just comes back and it's just back at work, and I just can't even wrap my head around him just returning back to the lab, and there's Steve Jones and he's like, hi Milo, how was your summer? Yeah, it was all right. Get him a sandwich.
Well, I heard an interview with him when he was on a podcast, and he was talking, because that's the good thing about the days we live in now, where Descendants have only gone full time in the last couple of years. Like people like Milo, who never did this previously, will now do podcasts, like punk rock podcasts and things, and be interviewed. Yeah. And he talks about he'll invite people that he works with to gigs if they're local, like if Descendants have to be playing, or if all are playing and he's guesting or something like that. And it's so separate to what he does. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And like these sort of timid scientist people are like, Fucking hell, like, dude. And not only watching him do that, but watching a sold out room go fucking crazy.
We're talking thousands at festivals. Like, if you look at those 96 videos, it's thousands upon thousands of people losing their shit. Just, yeah. A research assistant's just like, oh, because, you know, you've been with people and they're like, oh, come check out my band this weekend. You know, we're playing it. Oh, okay, I'll come check them out. And it's like you and 4 people, predominantly their family. I just can't even wrap my head around thousands. But Everything Sucks. This is the opening track of the Everything Sucks album, one of my absolute favorite albums of all time. And it is just about life is shit and everything sucks and it's going wrong. And this is what's wrong in my life. And there's no happy ending to it. And when I'm in that mood, I put this song on and I immediately feel better about my life and myself because it just kicks you up the ass. So here is Everything Sucks from Everything Sucks.
Got up this morning to make some coffee. Everything sucks today. Wait, someone out a hitman to off me. Everything sucks today. Got up on a run to the light this morning. Nothing the day is gonna go my way. I'm stoked on the lights this morning. I don't think anything's gonna be okay today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today. Buckled in a car when the rum was knocking. Everything sucks today. Flat tire in my car, so I guess I'm walking. Everything sucks today. Taxman came and took my money. Now all my other bills are gonna be late. Girlfriend's moving in this morning. I don't think anything's gonna be okay today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today. Got up on a run to the light this morning. Nothing today is gonna go my way. I was caught on the light this morning. I don't think anything's gonna be okay today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today.
What
Everything
opener?
Sucks. Everything Sucks. Absolutely beautiful.
Great opening track from their first album in like 7 years as well. This is the mid-90s album that, you know, everyone sort of who never saw them got to see them, and that's how they opened the album. Amazing.
Yeah. And then you go into I'm the One. Then you have Coffee Mug, Rotten Out, Sicko Me. Just such a fucking good album.
Yeah, it's all great. And the song This Place Sucks, which I don't think they've ever played live, which I see as sort of a sequel to that song. That was, I was working part-time at Marks and Spencer's when that was like one of my first jobs when I was in sixth form or whatever. And I fucking hated it so much. And the This Place Sucks song, which is about just working somewhere that's fucking terrible, was my anthem. That I would just like, I'd be singing it in my head. I can remember doing it now. Like, I'd be singing it in my head whilst I was stacking shelves and stuff. It's not weird.
No, I had like I've had hated jobs, and I have the exact same thing with that song where I will have it in my head. Again, anyone who listens to it will go, yeah, I can relate to this. Fuck Descendents. They do a song where they kind of thank a band, but they don't name who the band is.
That makes me sick, that song.
Why? Because you want to know who it is?
No, because like they've written, so this is going to sound pathetic, but like Descendents, like I've never listened to a band where I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm thinking, oh fuck, like that's exactly how, like these guys feel exactly the same way as me. That is exactly how I feel about this. I couldn't think of any. And then I get into music as I get older and stuff, and sort of get into bands and stuff. And it's like, man, I should write a song about how much I love the Descendents. And like, but no, they wrote a song called Thank You. They've already done it for me. Everything they're saying in that song is exactly how I feel about the Descendents. Like, that's how much I love the Descendents. They've already written it. So I can't even do that.
The steps ahead. Well, you can cover it, Jesse, and then your meaning for that song can be about them, and it's just a beautiful loop that goes on. But you're exactly right. There's just not a song that they haven't covered. Which I don't know if this makes us too similar or us just too boring that we can just relate to these random men in California. That we just have all of these songs that go, yes, I felt this at one time or another, or I've experienced that, or this is something that I feel.
Yeah, they touch into emotions in a way that I haven't found from any other band. Like, there's plenty of other bands I like, but not in the way like Descendents just touch. And maybe it's a certain type of bloke. Yeah. Maybe it's like a certain type of bloke or something. I don't know. But there's a lot of women that like Descendents as well. I don't know what it is. Like that they connect somehow with people in a way that I've not seen any other band do.
Yeah, when you go to a Descendents gig, it's not people are there to see the support act, or people are just there because it's a free night out or something or there. People are there for Descendents, and there's that energy around it, which is so hard to describe, of just admiration and love. And like, you could talk to any single person in that room and probably make a lifelong friend. We don't, because we hate people and we just like each other, but we could. But we could.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could, but we don't.
But we don't. We stay away. I remember what was it? Kentish Town gig. Kentish Town was
that was a good one.
Kentish Town was great. That
was like, had the London. There was an attempted terror attack in London or something.
Yeah,
that had happened like the day before.
The day before, like before. Our family was like, we don't think you should go to London. And we were like, already at the pub, yo.
Yeah, it's like Descendents. Like we're definitely going for Descendents.
I'll go.
And I took one of the best pictures I've ever taken of you, me, and Bobby. We were all sitting outside the Dublin Castle in Camden, which was my first ever London gig. Was in the first gig I ever played. Was in the Dublin Castle in London. So that place holds a special place in my heart. And it's a lovely place. So we went for a drink there, and I took this brilliant. I'm not very good at taking pictures at all, but I took this selfie picture of you, me, and Bobby. We're all sitting on a bench outside, and I just lined it up perfectly. So we were like across. It was a damn good picture.
It was a good picture day that day. We got some good shots of everyone. We looked beautiful. But that was the gig. I had just come off crutches. Barely, less than a week before. So I had a wrestling injury where I tore all the tendons in my foot, which is more painful than breaking any bone. Like tendons, it was horrible. Anyway, so I was on crutches for 8 weeks, and Descendents was at the 7-week mark. And I went, I can barely put enough pressure on it, but I can put enough pressure on it to walk. So I could probably go to a gig. That was my logic. So I threw away the crutches, got into Bobby's car, we went to London, and we were in the middle, and that was probably the most aggressive pit we've been in for Descendants. Yeah. Like, that was annoyingly aggressive, that pit. It was like...
Passive aggressive. It was a passive aggressive pit.
It was like, oh, would you mind? Would you calm down? And yeah, so I just come off crutches. I could barely put enough pressure on my foot, and I'm trying to hold off these people who are trying to, like, fuck us up. And I have people standing on my foot, and I'm just like... Why? And I just looking up at the balcony. I just remember seeing this couple just sipping their Chardonnay. And I was like, you motherfuckers.
And they were having a great time up there.
They were having a great time.
I was looking at the balcony lot. They were standing up and getting into it when they wanted to, but no one was around them. They could sit back down. All cool.
I hopped for 90 minutes.
That was the same gig where I own about 20 Descendants t-shirts, right? Because if Descendants are good at something else other than amazing lyrics and beautiful musicianship, it's merch, right? Because this Milo logo is everywhere, and it's a great idea. If you're in a band, just get a logo, get an iconic logo, preferably a caricature of your very charismatic frontman, and like you'll just sell shit forever. And it's worked on me. I've got so many Descendants t-shirts, so obviously you have to wear one when you go to the gig. For some fucking reason, I chose the t-shirt that they produced last time they played a gig in London, which is Milo, the caricature, wearing one of those soldiers of the guard. Excuse me. What are they called? The Royal
Marge heads.
Marge, yeah, like Marge Simpson hair, but black. One of those big hats. And so for some reason I wore that to go to a Descendants gig in London where we're just wandering around London for most of the day. And I just remember coming up to you and you just looked at me and went, you look like a fucking tourist.
And he was self-conscious for the whole day.
The whole day.
Just walking around like covering his chest there. Oh, beautiful. If anyone's not taking a message away, if you want to see me, Jesse, we will be at a Descendants gig. That's just always a given.
Yeah, if they're playing in England, we'll be there.
Yeah, so I highly recommend going. And we hope we've turned people onto being fans. There's so many more songs we wanted to talk about.
Do you have quick honourable mentions? Can we do some quick fire stuff?
Descendants. Silly Girl has to be kind of mentioned in there. Hypercaffeine Spazzinate, which is not the best
album
out they could have picked from. The first 6 tracks of that are incredible. Like On Paper.
Yeah, right.
Worse.
It sort of peters out towards the end, that album, but the first few tracks are fucking banging. You're right.
Yeah, you open with Feel This, Victim of Me, On Paper, Shameless Halo. Absolutely solid, barely 5 minutes, and you're on your fifth track. American, I've always loved. American has always just been Descendants shouldn't always go punk politically, but they do, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
they're at the stage of their career where they can do what the fuck they want.
Yeah, exactly. What's that other one? Hang on. Let me just get my honorable mention list very quickly.
Okay. While you're looking at that, I will say Sour Grapes. Okay.
Shut up. In Love This Way. I think In Love This Way is one of the
that's a great song. That's a really underrated song, actually.
Romantic songs. Victim of Me. When I Get Old.
Yeah, that's a great tune.
Great song because it's about what happened. Will I still be this punk kid? Will I still want to grab my girlfriend's ass? All of this kind of stuff that he's kind of thinking about.
The answer is yes.
And the answer is yes. Yeah.
We've learned.
Anyone's curious. And My Age, the sickest bass line in any song ever produced.
Yeah, great stuff. I'll go with Sour Grapes, which again is of its time, I think, but a great bitter song about. The bridge of that song says, "I wanted a cherry, but I got sour grapes." Clean Sheets from All is a stunning song. The lyric, Bill Stevenson wrote that song. The lyrics are amazing.
Bill's been through some pain.
The lyrics are amazing. The chorus is catchy. The guitar, that little noodly bit I talked about earlier, is incredible. What else can I think of off the top? Get the Time. Fucking hell. I was talking about this song with you earlier. When I Get the Time, it's on Enjoy, which is probably the worst Descendents album. Not probably, it is the worst Descendents album. But there's Sour Grapes is on there. I just talked about that. 80s Girl is a great song on there. Cheer. There's some great tunes on this album. There's one song called Get the Time, which I think, not just because I'm a Descendants fan, I think it's one of the best pop songs ever written. It's a beautiful love song. It's catchy. It's got this lovely guitar bit to it. If you could give that to any pop act in the world and they would turn it into a best-selling pop single.
Yep, 100% agree. We could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about how much we love Descendants, and we will if you let us. We've already done it for an hour and 25 minutes on songs that barely cover 10 minutes of audio.
Done well.
So you're welcome for that. But it's a band that will always bond me and Jesse. Like whenever I think of our friendship, Descendants is that peak. Like Wrestling and Descendants is how we define our friendship, without a doubt. Other bands have come and gone, and there'll still be love for us, but Descendants, I think, is that mainstay.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Weirdly, it's weird that we're doing this show today. So not long ago, and I'm going to post this in there actually. I joined a Facebook group called Descendants and All Fans, and turns out it's got members of Descendants and All in the group, and they regularly sort of comment on stuff and chat, which is exciting. But I didn't know that when I joined. I was like, I love Descendants and All this fucking this. And so I went into it. But like literally today, I was again. I'm supposed to be beyond this now, right? Like I know some pretty big names, right? But like I was like looking at some thread someone put up about an old Descendants poster or something, and I was just going through the comments, and fucking Carl Alvarez from Descendants has commented on this poster, sort of go, "Oh, good days," and all, and it's like fuck, like I'm sort of nerding out like a 10-year-old. Do you know what I mean? Like having seen that, and it's ridiculous that I'm not the starstruck type so much anymore, but I make an exception for the Descendants. They're just. Like I was like, it was amazing. It was nice to feel that way again.
I wish I could share the memory with everyone listening and watching this podcast of Jesse grabbing Milo and disappearing. It will live with me until the day I die. It was pure beauty.
I would if security hadn't got involved, I'd still be holding his arm to this day.
Just like a little Voldemort on his arm side of it. Oh, bless that security. They earned their pay that night. They earned their pay.
They did well. I can still remember. You know what? How iconic that day is in my memory. I can still remember the two security guards who were in front of us. I can picture them as clearly as if I'd just seen them. Like the guy, right? The bald guy who had
with the knife cut.
Yeah. And he had I can't remember what it's called. When people have like blotchy skin, like Michael Jackson said he had it and stuff. Like he looked like that. And there was a girl security guard with short blonde hair. Do you remember her as well?
Yeah.
They were standing next to each other and they clearly got on very well with each other. They did a really good job.
Well done to the sports staff at Gigs. We miss you and we can't wait to make your life a misery in a couple of months. It's going to be beautiful. Well, what else can we say? Thank you so much, everyone, for tolerating and listening. I'm so glad to see the view count that so many of you have stuck around and watched this and tolerated me and Jesse talking about our most favorite band in the world. We hope you go and check out.
This was so masturbatory, wasn't it? This was a wank show.
Yeah, but our wank shows, I feel like, are our best shows because they're the thing we're most passionate about that we get really involved in. But like, we love the Descendents. We just want to share it with people and, you know, go check out their albums. They're all on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your music source. Just sit and listen to an album and check it out and you'll fall in love. I guarantee it. And if you don't, we'll come around with a documentary. Then you'll fall in love. Yeah. It'll be wonderful.
And then if you don't, we'll cut you.
And on that note, we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to support the podcast, you can buy some sexy ass merch. This is the nice hoodie. Jesse's wearing a nice tie-dye t-shirt. You can go to gottill5.tmail.com. The link's down there at the bottom. Pick up some merch. We've got some new hoodies and graphic design t-shirts on there, which you'll like picking up. And thank you once again. We have 10 episodes left of this podcast. It's getting a bit bittersweet now that we're getting into that kind of final stretch of it being ending. But I am excited for us to hit 100, which is a huge achievement, and I couldn't have done it without you, my friend.
Well, it's been a hell of a journey, and we've seen it out, which is important. And we're going to get to episode 100. It's going to be a hell of a send-off, and then we'll be back with something even better at some point.
Exactly. So enjoy the next 10 episodes of us just wanking off each other for the next 10 weeks, because the next 10 weeks is just us doing what we enjoy. Like, we just don't even give a shit anymore. It's just like our little time capsule of what we like. So enjoy. Please subscribe. Jesse, where can people go if they want to subscribe? Check out the merch. One website. What is it?
Oh, it's a little website. It's like the merch one, but without the T-Mobile bit. It's gottill5.com.
Beauty. Get in contact. Tell us if you do end up listening to Descendents. We'd love to talk to you about it. Have a wonderful week. We'll be back next Thursday. Peace and love. Bye. Max, Jesse. Laters.